The giant water bug is one of the biggest, fiercest, and most startlingly dangerous bugs on the planet, known for hunting turtles, snakes, and even small ducks. The giant water bug is able to grow up to about 4 inches long. It's been nicknamed the toe biter because it has a tendency for biting people's feet and delivering an extremely painful injury, and there are about 150 species of them located all throughout the world. The bite isn't necessarily lethal, but it has been reported to be excruciatingly painful. And considering the giant water bug is found commonly through the Americas, this is one insect that you actually have a high likelihood of meeting. These bugs don't only live in the water, they also live on land and can fly around thanks to their gigantic wings. One of the more disturbing character traits of the giant water bug is that they play dead. These monsters have been caught pretending to be dead before suddenly springing to life and attacking humans with their incredibly sharp beak. And as if the bug weren't scary enough already, the female giant water bug sometimes lays her eggs on the back of her male partner, turning the male water bug into a walking nightmare with what appear to be pimples growing out of its back. But of course, these are just the egg sacs that it carries around with it until the young are ready to hatch. The giant long-legged katydid, or just the giant katydid for short, is one of the strangest bugs ever. It is the largest species of katydid in the entire world, and kind of looks like an enormous, completely green grasshopper. In fact, they are closely related to grasshoppers, so that explains their similarities. However, the giant katydid has super long antennae, and their wings look like leaves. This makes them stand out against the typical brown grasshopper, which has short antennae and wings folded over its back. You can find the giant katydid doing nothing in the daytime, as through most of the daylight hours they remain completely motionless, using their camouflage to avoid predators. They live in the forested mountain ranges of tropical Malaysia, and are basically invisible amongst the canopies of green leaves. At night though, the giant katydid uses its super long antenna to find leaves and small insects to eat, and to try and find a mate. You can hear the males at night making high-pitched noises as they try to signal a female. The cow killer is one of the most fearsome insects in the world. It's known properly as the eastern velvet ant, even though it's not an ant in any way, shape or form. It's just that the female looks a lot like an ant. The cow killer, as it's commonly known, is in fact a type of wasp, and the female, which doesn't have any wings by the way, has a ferocious sting that some claim is powerful enough to kill a cow. You can probably figure out by now where the insect gets its name. In the case of humans, the sting from a cow killer is not enough to cause any serious damage, but it can be very painful. Cow killer wasps are quite a bit different from other wasps. First of all, they look strange. They are red and black and look velvety, unlike yellow and black normal wasps. The cow killer is also a solitary insect, more often seen buzzing around alone than inside of a nest with other wasps. And to make this insect even more frightening, it's a parasitic species to bumblebees. A female cow killer will lay her eggs inside of a bumblebee hive, and when the eggs hatch, the wasp's offspring will eat the bee larvae. It's an absolutely savage evolutionary trait, but one that has worked for the cow killer wasps so far. And if you're worried about running into some of these pesky bugs, you should be. They can be found all throughout fields, meadows, gardens, forests, and pretty much anywhere in North America. Have you ever been stung or bitten by a dangerous bug? Maybe some hornets or wasps? Tell me about it in the comments below. Then, remember to subscribe to Epic Wildlife for more intense videos. The thorn bug literally looks like a thorn. It looks like the spike from a rose bush or the spine of a thistle plant. It doesn't even look like this strange bug has a face or legs. It straight up just looks like a thorn, but it's pretty good camouflage, as thorn bugs are super tricky for birds or larger bugs to eat. Nobody wants to bite down on a nail, and that's what trying to eat a thorn bug would be like. There are a lot of different types of thorn bugs, but they all share the same features. They all have a giant thorn thing on their back. They are also widely distributed throughout the entire world, living on every continent except for Antarctica. What's really strange is when you see an entire group of thorn bugs covering a branch. They make the branch look like it's growing dozens and dozens of spikes, and this helps the entire group to remain safe from predators. It also stops birds from landing on the branch, as it appears that the branch is riddled with spikes. The human botfly is the scariest bug on the planet. Botflies are gross, they're covered in hair, they're so big they look like bumblebees, and they have a frightening tendency to infect a human host. This is something known as meiosis, where the larvae of a botfly get transferred into human flesh through a fly bite or a mosquito bite. And be prepared for some fear, because this is the 4th most common travel skin disease reported, according to Women's Health magazine. It might not be seen very frequently in the United States, but it is a super common affliction in Latin American countries. And if you happen to be taking a trip to somewhere like Belize or Guatemala, you could end up returning home with some unwanted visitors burrowed inside of your skin. And that's dangerous for a whole heap of reasons. Once botfly eggs are inside of your body, the heat of your skin causes them to hatch. This can last from between 27 to 128 days, and the whole time you probably won't even know you're infected. You'll only see small pimples discharging a pretty gross fluid. These pimples are actually holes in your skin so that the baby botflies can breathe. And even though botfly larvae don't really transmit diseases, it is still pretty gross. Some patients have reported feeling larvae moving underneath their skin. The only way to get rid of them is surgery, to rip your own flesh open and pull out what are essentially maggots growing inside of your body, or to cover up the wound with something like petroleum jelly to suffocate the botfly larvae, though then you have dead flies rotting beneath your flesh. Whichever way you look at it, botflies are horrifying. The Hercules beetle doesn't even look like it belongs on this planet. According to the Biology Dictionary, this enormous insect is one of the largest beetles in the world. It's easily recognised by its long pincers and massive body. The Hercules beetle is a type of rhinoceros beetle, all of which are armoured monsters known for their brute strength. But while most rhinoceros beetles can only lift around 30 times their own body mass, the Hercules beetle can carry an outstanding 850 times its own mass. Crunch those numbers and the Hercules beetle becomes the strongest living thing on the planet. Imagine if you weighed 150 pounds and could carry 127 500 pounds on your back. Do you understand why it's called the Hercules beetle now? Putting their ridiculous strength aside, Hercules beetles are also famous for the way they fight. They use their massive pincers to battle each other to try and claim a female. Because male Hercules beetles are attracted both chemically and audibly to females, a single lady beetle will often draw a whole herd of male Hercules beetles, who will then battle each other for the right to breed. Whoever said the animal kingdom isn't romantic? There is an invasion going on in Canada that is scary enough to make people want to move. It's an invasion of house centipedes, incredibly dangerous and disgusting insects that can often be seen hanging around in Canadian homes, specifically inside the bathroom sink or in the drain of the shower. These centipedes are not only ugly, but they can also deliver a bite that is even more painful than a bee sting. And as if getting bitten wasn't enough, the house centipede can administer venom using its legs. The venom isn't enough to cause a fatal reaction, but if you have a couple of these centipedes crawling across your feet, you're going to have redness and swelling for days. But believe it or not, just having these centipedes in your house can be a nightmare, even if you don't get bit. This is because house centipedes are known for emitting a rank odour, and they can make an entire room stink. But don't worry, because since house centipedes are nocturnal, you'll probably only find them at night. Either that, or they'll find you. The devil's flower mantis is one of the most legendary species of mantis. It has an amazing colour scheme that makes it look like a dried out leaf when it's young, but then brightens into shades of green and white once in adulthood. This mantis is also ridiculously huge. I mean, it's not the size of a dog or anything, but it's pretty sizable when you look at other types of mantis. This particular species lives in Africa and mostly in Tanzania. There is no denying these are some of the creepiest and strangest insects in the world. Each one has a big shield on its back, 4 long and skinny legs, and the 2 long arms that makes the mantis so infamous for their kung fu skills. But other than the way it looks, there isn't really that much extraordinary about the devil's flower mantis. They are extremely expensive, and they are one of the most favourite exotic insect pets. They are difficult to breed. They can grow to be around 10 centimeters tall, and unless you already knew it was there, you'd never find it in the wild. Have you ever seen a praying mantis in person? Have you ever held one? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell for more amazing animal videos, and let me know what you'd like to see in future videos. The Sydney funnel web spider can kill you. When talking legitimately dangerous bugs, the funnel web spider is definitely at the top of the list. These critters live in Australia, and they are feared by pretty much everyone. However, an interesting fact is that only male spiders have ever killed somebody with their bite. One of the reasons for this is that between November and April, male spiders will wander around at night trying to find a female inside of her burrow. They basically stalk the streets of Sydney looking for women's homes to break into. This results in the male spiders getting lost in suburban gardens and the occasional house. And of course, once this spider is in your house, it's only a matter of time until you have an accidental meeting with it. The venom from the Sydney funnel web spider is extremely toxic and attacks the nervous system of a human, meaning that a single bite can send you into shock and ultimately kill you. But of course, as long as you get to the hospital in time, you will probably be okay. The anti-venom was developed in 1981, and absolutely no deaths have occurred since it was introduced in Australia, seeing as it's always available at the major city hospitals and the regional hospitals. But even with the anti-venom, you can expect a significant amount of pain and a whole lot of discomfort. Who doesn't want to hug a panda bear? They are black, white and cuddly all over. But what about the panda ant? It's furry too, right? But this little critter is actually a wasp, and you shouldn't touch a wasp, probably ever if you can help it. While the male panda ant has wings and looks a lot more like our notion of a wasp, the female does not have wings, looks just like a little itty bitty furry panda, and has a nasty stinger that can send you skipping away in horrible agony. Its other nickname is cow killer, but its sting isn't the deadliest or the most painful, which just goes to show how extreme they can be. Native to South America, they are parasitic and belong to a family of wasps known as Multilidae. There are around 7,000 of them whose females resemble large furry ants. Also known as velvet ants, they can be found in all kinds of colours, and while they are pretty and very interesting, you should stay clear from this creepy, deceiving wasp. Deer ticks are very small bugs with a very large history of spreading disease. The connection between deer ticks and Lyme disease has turned these tiny monstrosities into some of the most hated bugs in the United States. And here is why they're so dangerous. Even though a deer tick is not born with Lyme disease, nor does a deer tick ever carry Lyme disease, they can absorb a certain bacterium into their system when they feed on an animal that is infected with said bacterium. The bacterium enters into the tick's gut and then travels into its salivary glands. Then, when a diseased tick bites a human, it injects them with the bacterium. This bacterium turns into Lyme disease inside a human host, and this is where all the danger starts. But there is some good news and some bad news when it comes to deer ticks and Lyme disease. When a tick first attaches to a human host, it generally takes up to 2 days for enough bacteria to transfer to get a person sick. However, ticks are sometimes undetectable for weeks. For example, a single mouse can have up to 100 deer ticks living in its fur. Just imagine how many you could have crawling around on your hairy legs or on your scalp. The giant water bug is creepy, strange, ugly, and absolutely fascinating. The North American species of giant water bug can grow to be around 2.5 inches in length. However, South American giant water bugs can grow to be a full 4 inches in length. Everything in the jungle is always bigger, but what makes the giant water bug so strange is the way it carries its eggs. They typically live just below the surface of lakes and ponds, where they are known to nibble on the toes of unsuspecting swimmers. But if you were to look down and see the giant water bug with all of the eggs growing out of its back, you would be absolutely disgusted. Or fascinated. I suppose it depends who you are. You see, the female water bug will deposit her eggs on the back of her mate. The male water bug will then care for the eggs for a full 2 weeks while they come to term on its back. During those 2 weeks, the male water bug must protect the eggs from predators and keep them healthy. Basically, the female dumps the babies with the father and then runs away and leaves him to do all the work. Saddleback caterpillars are some of the coolest looking insects ever. It's not clear how they got their amazing colour patterns, but at first glance, every saddleback caterpillar looks as though it's wearing some kind of sports jersey. But beyond the colourful exterior is a seriously dangerous bug that you need to look out for. The sting from this ordinary little caterpillar is strong enough to knock a grown person to the ground. This is dangerous because most people don't seem to understand how dangerous caterpillars are. Everyone is scared of bees and hornets, but nobody worries about the cute and cuddly caterpillars. But guess what? All you need to do is pick up the saddleback caterpillar to receive its sting. You don't even have to annoy it. Just touch it and the spines that stick out of its body will inject you with some pretty miserable pain. A rash will break out wherever the caterpillar's spines make contact with your skin, and the burning sensation can last for up to 2 days. In fact, the sting and the main poison are so intense that you may experience nausea for nearly half a day. Of course, the best way to avoid this unpleasant scenario is to not touch any caterpillars that you may find in your garden. The Australian walking stick actually looks a lot like the devil's flower mantis, but in a way it's even stranger. For those who don't know, walking sticks are all native to Australia. They are all herbivores, and they all look super similar to praying mantises. However, they are not even a little bit related. According to the Oregon Zoo, the biggest difference is that mantises are carnivores and will eat other insects, and walking sticks are herbivores and will only eat leaves. The Australian walking stick lives in eucalyptus trees and eats their leaves. They are indistinguishable from sticks, which is obviously where they get their name, and males are able to fly but females are not. Females still have wings, but their wings don't actually work. You might say they got a pretty bum deal. An interesting fact is that females can lay up to 200 eggs over a period of just a few months. But this is an important ability considering the lifespan of an Australian walking stick is only between 10 and 12 months. The tarantula hawk is not a bird. It's not a tarantula either. It's a type of wasp with a sting that can make the toughest person cry. Some have described the pain of the tarantula hawk's sting as being shocked with electricity. When the wasp stings a person, all they have to do is lay on the ground and start screaming. Now, the tarantula hawk grows to about 4 inches in length, making it absolutely enormous for a wasp. There are about 133 known specimens of them, distributed throughout the Western Hemisphere. The tarantula hawk got its name for one very simple reason. It hunts tarantulas. It also hunts tarantulas far larger than itself. It's not every day that you see an insect so dangerous that spiders literally flee like cowards at the sight of it. And yet, tarantula hawks truly are monsters. Even though they get their nutrition from nectar, they will battle spiders as a way to provide food for their babies. The female tarantula hawk will stab a spider multiple times and inject it with her venom, keeping the spider alive but completely paralyzed. The wasp then drags the spider into her own nest and lays an egg inside of the spider's body. Later on, the baby wasp hatches and eats the spider from the inside out. But in order to be this kind of apex predator, you better have a powerful sting. And the tarantula hawk does. According to the Natural History Museum, the tarantula hawk has the second most painful sting in the entire world, beaten only by the legendary bullet ant. It probably won't kill you, but you'll definitely wish you were dead. The Calleta silkmoth caterpillar is native to the southwest of the United States, where it feeds almost entirely on purple sage. They operate pretty much the same as any other caterpillar, and that in itself is enough to earn them a place on the list of strangest bugs. When they are born, they are tiny little black insects, just a few millimeters long and completely black. However, as they grow, they begin to change colour. The silkmoth caterpillar will first turn yellow and eventually become a very dark green as they get fatter and fatter in preparation for doing what caterpillars do best, metamorphosis. These particular caterpillars will begin to make a silk cocoon amidst the leaves that it enjoys eating. After hanging out in the cocoon for a little while, the Calleta silkmoth caterpillar is no longer a caterpillar, but a beautiful black and green silkmoth with fantastic colours and patterns and a pair of impressive wings. The whole transformation from tiny black caterpillar to a fat green caterpillar and finally to a huge silkmoth is strange and captivating in its complexity. The deathstalker scorpion is considered by some to be the deadliest scorpion in the entire world. This little bug is filled with painful venom that can cause a person to become paralysed and in great pain. The deathstalker typically uses its potent venom for hunting ordinary bugs like crickets, but if you happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, you could find yourself in some hot water. This is because the deathstalker scorpion hides underneath rocks most of its life, waiting for crickets and other small bugs to get near it. If you happen to put your hand down in front of the deathstalker scorpion, it will probably sting you and fill you with venom. After being stung by a deathstalker, you will have a whole lot of neurotoxins flowing through your body. You could go into an anaphylactic shock, your muscles could contract and cause a seizure, and if you don't receive immediate medical attention, there is the possibility that you'll die painfully while screaming. The only good news is that these types of scorpions are found typically in the deserts of Africa, India and Central Asia, where most people don't dare to travel. The giant weta is arguably the worst bug on the planet. It's definitely earned itself the title of the ugliest. According to Science magazine, New Zealand has more than 80 different species of weta insects, but the giant weta is the biggest and the ugliest. In fact, weta in the indigenous language of the Maori means god of ugly things, so you can imagine how terrible this pesky bug really is. The story of the giant weta goes back 65 million years. After the extinction of the dinosaurs, small furry creatures began to explode all over the planet. However, because New Zealand had split away from other landmasses 15 million years before the extinction, they ended up without any mammals except for a single bat. This caused biodiversity to take an entirely different form. Without mammalian predators, flightless birds and insects were able to expand dramatically. This is how the giant weta came to be such a dominant creature on the island. There are 11 species of giant weta in New Zealand. Basically, instead of rats, cats and other predatory animals, these gross insects just kept getting bigger and bigger without anything to challenge them. One of the most common pests in the state of Louisiana is the fire ant. These bugs are smart. They live in massive colonies. They can be found in just about anyone's lawn, and if you're not careful, they could eat you alive. When 13-year-old Patrick Dodson was doing yard work at home on a Sunday afternoon, he found himself covered in hundreds of ants after a bag of mulch ripped open and the ants were sprinkled all over his body. According to Fox News, the ants began biting Patrick immediately. However, it wasn't until about 10 minutes later after he had run inside of his house that he began to feel something wasn't right. Patrick ended up having his entire face flush, his lips and nose swelled up, and eventually he passed out. An ambulance had to be called to get the boy to the emergency room, as the venom from the fire ants shut his body down. Doctors working at the Baton Rouge General Medical Center had to give the boy intravenous fluids to flush the venom out of his system. And it was a struggle to keep the boy alive as his blood pressure continued to drop. Even more alarming is that Patrick's heart stopped beating 2 times while he was at the hospital. In the end, Patrick was very lucky to survive the night at the hospital, with all the fire ant venom coursing through his veins. But he did make a full recovery. The moral of the story here is that fire ants are extremely dangerous. The leafhopper is definitely one unique insect. You can find leafhoppers hanging out on all kinds of different plants. They are an invasive species that inadvertently destroys plant life by sucking sap out of the plants they live on, destroying chlorophyll, transmitting diseases, and eventually curling leaves. Whichever plant the leafhopper decides to live on inevitably takes on quite a bit of damage. Though not from a single leafhopper, it takes a whole gang of them to make a plant wither. There are a few different types of leafhoppers, and they are all specific to what kind of plants they hang out on. For example, the apple leafhopper does some serious damage to apple foliage by making it pale and speckled with white spots. Then there is the beet leafhopper, which is a carrier of a viral disease that curls sugar beet leaves and stunts the growth of the plant. Also, a beet leafhopper is able to infect tomato, cucumber, spinach, and other types of garden variety plants. Basically, for every plant there is a leafhopper, and each leafhopper is evolved to destroy its particular plant. According to Britannica, the grape leafhopper eats developing leaves on grapevines in Virginia creepers, while the potato leafhopper causes potato leaves to turn brown and curl. Weevils are pretty freaky bugs. The immediate thing that stands out with a filbert weevil is its super long snout, properly referred to as a rostrum. Weevils are part of the largest beetle family in the world, with over 45,000 different living species. That means that weevils are the biggest and most widely spread family in the animal kingdom. Most weevils just look like generic insects, but the one thing they all have in common is their weird eyeballs. Each kind of weevil has a shiny pair of dark black eyes that are unmistakable. No matter how different their bodies are built or how differently coloured they all have the same black eyes. But perhaps the strangest weevil of all is the filbert weevil, which is a pest of oak trees. There is nothing overly special about the filbert weevil other than its super long nose. It does basically the same thing other weevils do, which is damage plants that humans like. Aside from the filbert weevil, the most famous weevil is named the boll weevil, and it absolutely loves ruining cotton crops. Known as the world's most painful insect, Getting bitten by a bullet ant is something you never want to experience. Native to the rainforests of Central and South America, the small but powerful bullet ant is also known as the hormiga 24, meaning the 24-hour ant, which refers to the full day of pain that follows after being stung. Only a little over an inch in length, it is hard to believe that their sting can feel like getting shot with a bullet. Why is this necessary? Why does the ant cause so much pain? Dr. Justin Schmidt, an entomologist and research director of the Southwest Biological Institute in Tucson, Arizona, invented the Schmidt Sting Pain Index, which categorizes the level of pain felt when stung by wasps, bees, and ants. He let himself get stung by all kinds of insects in order to rate their sting. He said that it really felt like getting hit by a bullet with waves of burning pain that were absolutely excruciating and went on for hours. The good thing is that it is a localized effect, and this sting does not directly affect your heart or lungs, so you won't die from it, but it will hurt like a biatch. These ants are greatly feared across the rainforest by people and animals alike. However, there are several indigenous tribes that use these ants in their initiation rituals. Young boys wishing to be seen as men by the tribes must endure placing their hand in a woven glove filled with these ants. They must endure getting stung repeatedly for at least 10 minutes. If that wasn't enough, the boy must sometimes go through over a dozen of these rituals. None of them suffer long-term effects, although the trauma may last forever. Which of these bugs is the weirdest? Have you ever seen any of these in real life? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Thank you for watching, and see you again soon for another fun video. Be sure to subscribe for all the latest from the channel. See you next time.